Rathkeale, County Limerick may seem like any other sleepy rural village, though it's anything but. Ireland's travellers have chosen the town as their spiritual home, their mecca, and have all but made it their own.
Anywhere you are in the world, if you nearly mention that you're from Rathkeale, they'll go, that's where all their rich gypsies come from, or something like that.
The settled community now claim to be under siege, and in this, the town that travellers took over, a cross-cultural tug-of-war, has reached boiling point.
Rathkeale will never be a traveller town, but the settled people love where we live. We're going nowhere.
There is, however, more to this story than meets the eye. Over the course of a 6-month investigation, one which unexpectedly led me across Europe and home again, I drilled down to the core of Rathkeale's many secrets and answered questions which, for decades now, cast long, dark shadows over the town. Do travellers plan to one day take over completely?
These people feel under siege.
To have our town destroyed.
How have Rathkeale Travellers amassed such enormous wealth?
Wherever there's money to be made, they'll go.
It's really like Hollywood. I mean, people would say to me, Jesus, did you see the 2 stretch hummers?
And how much, if any, of those millions are the proceeds of crime? And what about the top men? What kind of money would they make a week?
40, 50 grand. If they're selling something, they'll ask anybody. They'll ask a priest or they'll ask the Pope to buy something.
On the outskirts of Rathkeale sits the town's most infamous landmark, a graveyard where traveller and settled residents alike are buried. Steeped in local history, it's here that traveller families honour their dead with lavish gravestones priced in the tens of thousands. And in turn, it's here that the divide between the two sides of the community in terms of both culture and wealth are most apparent.
It was a really prosperous place in the late 18th century, biggest town in County Limerick, a very significant inland town in the context of Ireland as a whole.
Perhaps now, Patrick, Rathkeale is best known throughout Ireland for being the spiritual home of travellers. Why has it earned that title?
Now, the travellers themselves, as part of their invented tradition in a way, posit the notion that they were here immemorially. That is not the case.
There are a lot of people in Rathkeale, a lot of the locals that have told me they believe the travellers are trying to gradually, inch by inch, take over Rathkeale and push out the locals. Do you put any truck or store in that?
It is an actual fact that their hold has expanded enormously. And they're the people with the money, you see.
In recent years, the landscape in Rathkeale has changed dramatically. A once thriving settled community are now very much in the minority and can lay claim to less than 20% of the town.
Most properties that have gone on the market in the 42 years that I'm here have been bought by travellers.
Do you think it's that the travellers here are trying to take over Rathkeale?
From the outside looking in, I think it looks that way.
The two communities may live side by side, but what some see as a hostile takeover by Rathkeale's wealthy travellers has divided the town. Now tension and bitterness are never far from the surface.
There wouldn't be a great deal of interaction between the communities. I described it once as a kind of unofficial apartheid. A lot of the business people will have a healthy relationship with them because they're transacting business with them. But the non-business settled community, there would be a relationship which could be best described as fraught with tension because these people feel under siege.
Strangely, the air in Rathkeale is also thick with fear. When asked, prominent members of the settled community slowly but surely stepped forward to discuss the rift, but for reasons that soon became clear, the vast majority shied away from the cameras and would talk only off record or if I agreed to keep them anonymous. Do you respect the travellers?
It's a very thin line at the moment. They're here for the last number of years to have our town destroyed.
And do you want the travellers out of Rathkeale?
It'd be nice to see them gone.
For the traveller community, owning real estate in Rathkeale, their spiritual home, is seen as a status symbol. Often, properties aren't bought to be lived in, but are instead used as holiday homes or simply as a showpiece. As for all but 2 months of the year, most of the owners live abroad. During that time, properties are deserted, boarded up, and now that practice has spread to Main Street, Rathkeale, where once booming businesses lie empty and unused.
It's probably the only place in Ireland that's been insulated from the property bust, where there's, again, competitive auctions go on to try and get hold of properties.
There are businesses, there are properties in this town that have been locked up for 30 years.
And are they being bought to be closed?
They've been
by the
bought to be
traveller
closed,
community?
yeah.
Rathkeale is also unique in that per capita, there are more planning violations here than anywhere else in the country. It's a powder keg issue that served to deepen the rift between the two communities, and again the finger of blame has been pointed squarely at travellers.
If you buy properties in Rathkeale, you can do what you like.
So, in Rathkeale, the same planning laws simply don't apply?
Not one bit.
It seems the travelling community are behind the majority of them. Would you agree with that? And is it something that you've looked into?
Yeah, from the evidence we have, it is mainly travellers.
There is a correlation, obviously, with the traveller community. There's a high level of violation. Permissions have been granted by the council for housing developments, and the houses are not built in conformity with the planning conditions.
There are some travellers that seem to do as they please in the town, and it seems to cause a lot of friction between both sides of the community, but now more so than planning violations, I'm hearing far more serious accusations of crime and corruption amongst the travellers. Now, it is the members of the settled community that are making those accusations, so at the moment I'm trying to figure out where small town politics ends and the truth begins. In the weeks and months that followed, I approached any number of travellers in Rathkeale, knocking on countless doors and putting those claims of crime, corruption and worse to them. But each time they ran scared. Sources and contacts soon clammed up, phone calls were ignored. Determined to find out why, I tried again, this time wearing a hidden camera.
I ain't going on television anyway.
No?
No. You told nothing.
Tell me about that, because everyone keeps telling the same thing.
I'm told not to talk to no. I won't lie to you, sir.
Okay, no, I appreciate it.
I have been told, none of us, but it would be a miracle if they do get someone to talk to you.
At every house and at every caravan I approached, I was met with the same response, a warm, sincere welcome, but a point-blank refusal to talk on camera. When I asked why that was, traces of something more sinister started to emerge.
And I'm not going to give a statement.
Yeah.
I can't afford to. Yeah. I tell you so.
So when you say you can't afford to, how do you mean?
We don't know what's going to happen.
You're gonna have bad worries, trust me. Nobody's gonna go on television.
What do you think is the issue though? What are people...
People on television causes problems. Couldn't do it myself, stuff, no.
Why is that now?
No, I'm not allowed to do it, you know what I mean?
If you were to talk to the camera, what would happen?
No, kill me.
Really?
Yeah.
It soon became clear that in the background there was someone pulling the strings. The wider community had been warned off talking to the media, ordered to stay tight-lipped. I wondered what, if anything, they were hiding and who was giving the orders. As the weeks wore on, more and more of the settled community came forward with stories of corruption in the town. In almost every case, they claimed travellers had muscled their way into owning so much of the real estate, and that intimidation was often used to force people into selling up and moving on.
If they want the property, they'll give any amount of money for it. So you could say that they're pressurising a lot of people out of town.
And is it true that they're offering settled families 3 and 4 times the value of their homes to get out?
7, 8 times the value.
Are some of those properties paid for in cash?
They are.
If somebody knocks on your door with a suitcase of cash, it's very, very difficult for anyone to turn that money down. You find that if one house is sold on one particular street, well, you can bet your bottom dollar that in 2 to 3 months, next door will sell, and then next door will sell.
Through a local source, I was then put in touch with a man who claimed to have been at the sharp end of intimidation by local travellers, and who eventually broke under pressure, agreeing to sell his family home and to move on. For how long did you own a house in Rathkeale?
All my life.
And you decided to sell that house, why?
because I got intimidated by the travelling community.
What was that intimidation?
From 8 o'clock in the morning to about 12 at night, knocking, constant, beeping the horn. My 12-year-old daughter, she couldn't go to the gate. She's been called out to sell the house.
So what kind of money were they offering you?
He first offered me 200,000, and about a week passed, and I just got so fed off him. I said to A, and he said, give me 15 minutes and I'll be back. And sure, within 5 minutes, he was back and he shook my hand and we had a deal.
What was the market price of your house?
Between 60 and 70,000.
And they were willing to agree a deal for 280,000. So that's almost €250,000 more than your house was worth.
Yeah, because they have plenty of money. Should have to spend it.
So the man that bought this house from you was a multi-millionaire then?
Multi-millionaire.
And a traveller from Rathkeale?
A travelling man from Rathkeale.
In listening to stories of backhanded payments, bribery and fraud, the enormous scale of the wealth in and around this sleepy rural town crashed into sharper focus. But it took several months and an anonymous phone call before I was offered a real glimpse inside the closed and secretive world of Rathkeale's wealthy travellers. I was told to be at a Limerick hotel in 2 days' time and that a moneyed traveller from Rathkeale would be there waiting and willing to talk on camera, provided I protect his identity. I've heard stories of people in the settled community being approached with suitcases full of money and being offered 2 and 3 times the market value of their houses. Are there truth in those claims, do you think?
That is the truth, yeah. They bid over the odds of it, like they go over the market value.
Why is that?
Because they have plenty of money.
There have been reports too of intimidation, of harassment by travellers looking to buy houses in the area.
Bullshit. Load of rubbish.
Where do you think those claims come from?
People that have nothing good to say about the Rathkeale Travellers. And I'll tell you, there's a population of settled people in Rathkeale that don't like travellers.
Now 80% of Rathkeale is claimed to be owned by travellers. Would you believe that figure?
Yeah, that is the truth.
And what is it about Rathkeale as opposed to any other town, village or city in Ireland that travellers are so attracted to?
Because we've been there for the last 200 years. It's our spiritual home.
Corruption appeared to be in the water, and in Rathkeale money certainly seemed to flow like it. But it's at Christmas time, when the town's globe-trotting residents arrive home, that Main Street Rathkeale has shades of its equivalent in Monte Carlo, and that tension between the settled and traveller communities reaches breaking point. Rathkeale, County Limerick is no ordinary town. To a growing number of Ireland's traveller community, it is their Mecca, their spiritual home, and in what's known to many as the town that travellers took over, two communities continue to clash.
These people feel under siege.
Practically, they own the whole town. They have our town destroyed.
Settled locals are now very much in the minority after years of frantic buying, so wealthy travellers snap up more than 80% of the town's real estate. Do you think it's that the travellers here are trying to take over Rathkeale?
From the outside looking in, I think it looks that way.
And it's each year at Christmas when thousands upon thousands of globe-trotting Rathkeale travellers arrive home that their infamous wealth is well and truly on display.
It's really like Hollywood. I mean, people would say to me, Jesus, did you see the 2 stretch Hummers? And you wouldn't even look out the window to see them, because over the Christmas period you're so used to seeing Hummers and you're so used to seeing horse-drawn carriages and all that.
Christmas time, town is jam-packed, you know. You drive through Dublin faster. We drive Porsches, BMW Jeeps, Audi Jeeps and cars.
It pretty much looks like the players' car park of a Premiership soccer club. You're talking about Mercedes AMGs worth well in excess of 120,000. Dozens of Range Rover Sports, of BMW X6s and X5s. It does transform the place, and I'm sure there's people in Rathkeale who would argue that it's not for the better either.
It's also around Christmas that tension between the two communities and amongst rival traveller families tends to boil over.
Christmas time here in Rathkeale is a nightmare. On Garda Síochána have to have a dedicated policing plan for the town of Rathkeale. We had an incident here in Rathkeale at Christmas time where there was a row over a dowry. The mother of the bride was doused in petrol and received 5-degree burns. But there was no formal complaint or official complaint, because that would be the culture.
There was a woman, all right. She came back for her daughter's wedding. The two families was